President Joe Biden, in the aftermath of the deadly terror attack at the airport in Kabul, vowing to continue the evacuation mission and look for retribution for the deaths of at least 13 U.S. service members. Listen.
We will not be deterred by terrorists. We will not let them stop our mission. We will continue the evacuation. I've also ordered my commanders to develop operational plans to strike ISIS-K assets, leadership, and facilities. We will respond with force and precision at our time, at the place we choose, in a moment of our choosing.
Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts. He is a Marine Corps veteran of the Afghan war. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. It strikes me that so many of the U.S. victims were Marines doing their jobs, trying to save lives. How did that hit you?
The war in Afghanistan is going to end as it began, bringing terrorists to justice. The architects of this atrocity need to know that the United States, whether it takes 10 days or 10 years, is going to find them and kill them. And the Biden administration must, as the president said they were, must sustain an over-the-horizon counterterrorism capability so that attacks like this do not hit the U.S. homeland in the years to come.
Okay. They hit U.S. interests yesterday. 13 U.S. service members are dead. They clearly have the capability to do that now, and there's every reason to believe their capability will grow in the coming days. So how do you address this rising terror threat in Afghanistan at the same time as you are removing U.S. assets?
There is a significant chasm between the ability to launch a suicide terrorist attack at a local asset in Afghanistan versus striking the U.S. homeland 2 oceans away. So we should not just presume that ISIS-K immediately has those capabilities. But as I said, the United States needs to maintain an over-the-horizon counterterrorism capability to deprive them of a base of operations in Afghanistan and to bring to justice the architects of this attack and to prevent future attacks. That's going to look like a collage of intelligence capabilities, of surgical kinetic capabilities, the insertion and extraction of special operations teams, and diplomacy. The United States has significant leverage still over the Taliban. 90% of their reserves are in U.S. banks. 75% of their government funding comes from international donors. They don't know how to operate an international airport. So although we, of course, would have more leverage over the Taliban if we remained a troop presence in Afghanistan, given that that's not an advisable option, we need to use our diplomatic and economic leverage to make them a counterterrorism balance.
So you still say it's not an advisable option. We had Congressman Michael Waltz on earlier, and there are others who say the United States should go in and retake Bagram. What's your answer to that?
U.S. troopers right now are heroes. They're pulling people to freedom at HKIA Airport. Now that evacuations are substantially advanced, we should transition that program to one that uses diplomatic channels to get remaining Afghan allies out after August 31st. We're going to be able to get all Americans who want to leave out before August 31st. The question of Bagram Air Base in particular is one that troubles me too. And it's why I've called for a thorough after-action review, both by the administration as well as congressional oversight, not just of the withdrawal, but of the entire conduct of the 20-year war in Afghanistan. We need to understand and declassify the decision-making around national security. We need to know whether the transition out of Bagram Air Base was made in haste and what impact it has on our counterterrorism posture.
And that is important. It's also in the past. I was asking specifically, you're opposed to any efforts to maybe go back and retake Bagram at this point?
To be clear, I'm opposed to any sustained counterinsurgency efforts in Afghanistan, nation building, efforts to combat the Taliban. What I am very much in support of and always have been is a counterterrorism posture. I think it's important to differentiate between the two. Counterinsurgency is a nation-building exercise like you've seen in Colombia, for example. It took 50 years. Counterterrorism is about neutralizing those with the capabilities to strike the U.S. homeland. The United States retains the prerogative for counterterrorism operations everywhere in the world. We are operating in dozens of countries in the Middle East and Africa to ensure that we do not have strikes on American citizens. And we need to sustain that in Central Asia as well. And we've got to take a thorough look at the assets and the intelligence necessary to do that.
I want to end where I began with you, and I just want you to reflect on the Marines and other service members who lost their lives yesterday, and the jobs they were doing and the nature, Congressman, of the sacrifice that they made.
It's an agony. These Marines were literally pulling people to freedom, and they represented the best of the United States military. They were bringing order to chaos. They were bringing hope to a grim situation, and their sacrifice must be honored by bringing to justice the architects of this atrocity.
And they are doing it and continue to do it this morning in almost impossible conditions. Congressman Jake Auchincloss, appreciate you being with us. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.